Welcome to Coding with T, and I'm your host, Tiffany. Hey Codies, quick disclaimer. From this point on, I'll be dropping videos every Monday and Wednesday at 3:30 Central Time, so stay tuned. As promised, in this video, I will be showing you how to use the most commonly used looping statements. The first looping statement we're going to discuss is the for loop. So in this program that I've already created, I'm going to create a for loop. I'm going to type for in parentheses int I equals 0, semicolon, I is less than 3, semicolon, I plus plus. And inside the curly brace, I'm going to system.out.println. Inside of the parentheses, I'm going to type I plus 1. Then I'm going to make sure it's closed with a semicolon. Outside of the for loop, I'm going to system.out.println. Inside of the parentheses, I'm going to type a string. Ready or not, here I come. And I'm going to make sure it's closed with a semicolon. Let me explain what's going on here. Inside this for loop, I have created an int variable named I. And the variable can be named anything, but most programmers / coders and software developers commonly use the letter I, unless they're nesting for loops. But no need to worry about nesting for loops, because this video is for learning at the beginner's level. And nesting for loops isn't a topic that I would want to discuss for a beginner's level. As I was saying, I have created an int variable I, and I've initialized it to 0. This means that I holds the value of 0 at the starting point. The next condition compares I to 3. This statement says I less than 3. The third condition increments I. So to break it down a little further, here's what's going on. Now inside of the curly brace, I have a system.out.println statement with the variable I plus 1 inside of the parentheses. This statement prints out the number stored in the variable I plus 1 for as long as our for loop condition is met, which is I being less than 3. Each time the I plus plus statement is ran, and as long as the condition is less than 3, the I changes to the next number. So if I was at 1 and the condition is still lower than 3, the next number would store 2 in I. I system.out.println. Inside the parentheses, I typed I plus 1. I did this because I wanted the next value after 0 to be displayed. In this case, I plus 1 is 1. This statement does not change the value of I, it just manipulates the value being displayed. Our I plus plus condition is what changes the value of I. Furthermore, outside of the for loop, I created another print statement. It displays, ready or not, here I come. I typed this statement outside of the for loop because had I put it inside of the for loop, it would have displayed 3 times. So to sum things up, the for loop does the heavy lifting so that we do not have to type the same line of code numerous times. Typing 1, 2, 3 is tedious, but suppose we needed to count 100. We wouldn't want to write the same line of code 100 times. For loops are also used to read an entire array. We discussed arrays in earlier videos, and I recommend you watch those videos if you're unfamiliar with what arrays are. Let's run our program. And voila, it works. As I was stating, for loops can read and display an entire array. Let me show you. I'm going to create an array of scores. I'm going to type int bracket scores, and I'm going to initialize it, And inside of these curly braces, I'm going to type 80, comma, 85, comma, 90, comma, 95, comma, and 100. And outside of my curly brace, I'm going to make sure it's closed with a semicolon. Then I'm going to use a for loop to display the scores. Now looking at the array, I know that there is 5 values stored in the score array. Therefore, I could type 4 inside of the parentheses int I equals 0, I less than 5, and I plus plus. This would work, but in the event that I did not know how big or small the array was, I would use the length method. Here's how it's used. 4 inside of the parentheses int I equals 0, I less than scores dot length, I plus plus. Inside of the curly brace, I'm going to type system.out.println. Inside of the parentheses, I'm going to use the array name, which is scores. And I'm going to use brackets and pass the variable I. And then outside of the parentheses, I'm going to make sure it's closed with a semicolon. Let's run our program. And voila, it works. Now that we've covered for loops, let's enhance our for loop. Enhanced for loops are very useful if you want to retrieve information from an array without making any changes to it. So instead of us using our previous loop, we're going to enhance it. To do this, we type for, and inside of the parentheses, int results. And then I'm going to use the array name scores. I'm going to open up curly braces, and I'm going to system.out.println. Inside of the parentheses, I'm going to type results, and then I'm going to make sure it's closed with a semicolon. Let's run our program. And voila, it works. In this statement, I declared a int variable and I named it results. Then I used that variable to loop through the entire score array. Now let's create a while loop. To do this, we need to declare a variable to function as a loop counter. So I'm going to type int, and I'm going to name it counter, and I'm going to initialize it to the value of 1. On the next line, I'm going to type while counter is less than 5. Inside of the curly brace, I'm going to system.out.println. And inside of the parentheses, I'm going to use the variable counter. And I'm going to make sure it has a semicolon on the side of it. And on the next line, I'm going to say counter plus plus. So each time this code runs and it gets to the counter plus plus, it increments the counter value. So if the first number in the counter is 1, once it gets to the counter plus plus, it increments that value to 2. And it keeps incrementing the value until the counter is no longer less than 5. Let's run our program. And voila, it works. Now let's discuss the do while loop. The do while loop allows the code to execute at least once. So let's type out a do while loop. To do this, we type do, and we use the curly brace. So inside of the curly brace, I'm going to system.out.println. And inside of the parentheses, I'm going to use the variable counter. On the next line, I'm going to counter plus plus. And outside of that curly brace, I'm going to say while the counter is less than 5. Let's run our program. And voila, it works. Okay, Codies, we're going to end it here. If this video helped you out, make sure you smash the like button, subscribe, hit that notification button, and also drop a comment and share the video. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.